Welcome to Canada's podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Canada's podcast. My name's Rivers Corbett. I am the Atlantic Canadian host and hanging out with rockstar entrepreneurs in Atlantic Canada, which for you people across Canada, in case you don't know, includes New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and the beautiful province they call the Rock, which is Newfoundland. And today I'm really excited about our guest, Chanelle Belliveau, who is from Dieppe, New Brunswick, which is on the other side of Moncton, New Brunswick. And she's got a very intriguing business journey that really touches kind of cool with what I'm doing with my business with Cheftorial. And so when we connected, and Chanelle, how did we connect in the first place? Was it, I think it was on Huddle or something that there was a story on you? Is that how it worked out?
Was
Maybe
there?
I
don't know if there was a story of me.
Well, there should be if there wasn't.
Yeah.
So how did we connect again? I can't remember how we connected.
I'm trying to think. I feel like it was. Oh no. Actually, okay. How it worked out is because I was on this Facebook group for entrepreneurs in Atlantic Canada. I think that's what it was.
Okay, cool. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah, someone talked about the Canada's podcast, and it was like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah, well, I love your spirit because you said I can do that. Absolutely. And of course, your story is absolutely amazing and good for you. I mean, that's a real lesson for entrepreneurs right from the very beginning. Somebody comes to you and says, I'd like to give you the opportunity to speak about your story, to be positioned on the number one podcast for entrepreneurs across Canada. And you'd be shocked at the amount of people that don't take that offer, yet complain about they're not getting the promotion. So good for you, my friend. You got moxie. you get great poise to say, I'm going to take advantage of that. So thank you for that. So I'm going to read a little bit of your bio. We're not going to cover it all. It's quite extensive, but first of all, Chanelle describes her company, which is called Farm to Table NB. I love it. Was a beautiful project. I think that's so cool how you began that whole story. And it was built out of your own work experience and your passion for gathering people around the table. And it really was about gathering not just people around the passion of getting around the table, but it was about having a conversation about the journey of the food that they're eating. And more people, of course, have got that desire to learn all about that, to have deeper conversations. People are reading, of course, labels much more than they ever have. But you're stepping it up. You're actually bringing that expertise to your dining experience with Farm to Table NB. And I'm just really excited about going on this journey. So let's start with the beginning. Obviously, you've had a passion, obviously, your own work experience and so on. So take us through a bit of that and then say, what was the aha moment that you said, I want to put this into a business? Can you take us through that journey?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say probably the way that it all started. So like my passion for all things related to food has been like really like long, like I've always been since, being in middle school with cooking and all of that stuff. But mostly I remember, and like I said in my bio, through my work experience, which really got me to where I am today doing what I do, because I had the chance of like studying in holistic nutrition. So knowing the benefits of food on the body. And I had been teaching by that point, like on the side, cooking classes for like about a year when I started that course. So I really liked, like gathering people around a table and cooking using that. But something that I realized was really lacking is that you would hear people say, or even like just like small kids, if they were to go to the store with their parents, and they would say like, oh, well, this food I got from the grocery store, like, oh, it's not making that connection.
Right.
So with that interest of wanting to make the connection between where our food comes from and how it got to our plate, I went and worked on an organic farm for full season.
Where was that at?
It was at my God.
Isn't that terrible? Hey, that does happen. I was interviewing somebody once. I'll never forget it. I was interviewing some, just so I give you some time to think about it. I was interviewing somebody once, and anyway, my boss just barged into the meeting that I was in, and I forgot the name of the person that I was interviewing, and he was waiting for me to introduce them. So it happens. You have these memory lapses. So if you don't remember, it's okay.
I remember it now. Yeah, it was at the Ferme Alva farm. So they're located just outside of Bouctouche in Saint-Maurice in New Brunswick. Cool. It's an organic farm, and I was there for the full season, and just to see like not only all the hard work that goes into growing the food that we get to have and put on our plates, but just like the whole journey of the food. I found it was so interesting, and it really got me passionate about like I really want to have this component and share that with people. And not only that, but like farmers are already super busy with everything that they do, right? It's really labor intensive work, and oftentimes maybe they don't always have that chance, especially if they're not in like farmers market or stuff like that, to connect with their community. So I was like, how can I bring the community to them so that we can really showcase the work that they do, really highlight the food that they grow, and really make that connection all together while fostering my growing passion for gathering people together. So so that
is so cool. So you had that idea, and you were doing cooking classes on the side while you were taking your training. So talk about that. Do you remember what the first menu was that you did for a group, and talk about what they experienced and how you did your research? Because like that's, it's kind of why I was brought up in the days of Roots, the famous series of Roots. How do you put back to your human ancestry? How do you do that research on the food ancestry? Talk about that first event that you did. What was on the menu? Can you talk about that and how the conversation evolved? Because I'm interested in, one was the first event, and then how you prepared for that event so that you could give the story of the food.
So if I was to go into, because now Farm to Table NB, there's two main offerings that we have. So we have our cooking classes, which I've been hosting for the past 4.5 years now, and our Farm to Table dinners, which only really started last year. But for the cooking classes, it was really like, it's so interesting to see how it evolved, changed throughout the years.
Evolved.
Exactly. Yeah. Because when I first started, it was very much more the focus on using food to like heal our body, or in order to be able to support our body in a way. And like my approach with like Farm to Table was still there, but not as like predominant as it is now.
Right.
But so that's kind of like how it started. But it was such a rush to be able to like, plan the cooking class. And at the start, because I really started teaching cooking classes because I remember when I was in school, one of my teachers was teaching cooking classes on the side, and I remember attending her classes and I was like, wow, this is so fun. I wanted to be there every single day. And I was like, I used to live in rural Cap-Pele in New Brunswick.
Okay. Yep. Love it.
Yeah. So there wasn't anything like that being offered there. And it was still quite the drive, like 30 to 45 minutes to get to Moncton. So I was like, it would be so fun to be able to do something like that, but in my region. So that's kind of where it started. And I think I remember my first class, I think I had like 3 or 4 people joining. It was a really small class, but it was such a nice experience, and just seeing, people gathered together and just cooking and learning together as well.
So we're talking about the journey of the cooking classes, but talk to me about when it ultimately switched to the farm to table model, because that's the one that, the whole thing of gathering around people around food and so on. It's such an amazing space to be in. I'm in that space myself. It's a vehicle to gather people and have conversation. But talk to me about when you made the switch to farm to table. That's the next level of your business journey.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely it would have started like after I had that work experience on the farm. And that's where I realized that I really needed to make that shift in the way I was running my business, because I really wanted to emphasize not only supporting local farmers and agricultures and makers, after seeing how much labor goes into the food and everything that they grow, but also just being able to make that connection again. So I guess, yeah. So after that work experience, that's where I was like, okay, well, especially in cooking classes, that's where I started creating seasonal menus.
Okay.
So where I was really working with was what was available seasonally and creating menus around that. So to really have that focus around what's available locally, not only for it to be more sustainable, but for it to be able for people to have more affordable produce as well when you're buying in season. So that's one of the.
And how did you find those, Chanelle? Sorry to interrupt on that, but
okay.
How did you find the ingredients or the resources for the ingredients to make those recipes, make those menus? Because I presume you didn't just make the menus and then go try to find the ingredients. You actually you were able to source ahead of time what was available and then made the ingredients. Is that how it went?
Yeah, exactly. So that's where I worked with, because throughout my time working on the farm, I made a lot of other connections because I had worked at the Dieppe Farmers Market also while on my time on that
okay,
farm.
cool.
Yeah, so I was able to make connection with other local farmers and other local businesses that were growing produce or either that had like meats or seafood or stuff like that.
Right.
That I was able to connect with them and see, okay, I have a class that's coming up on X date. What's the availability that you think you'll have at that time, so I can create my menu around that? So that's kind of what we did. And especially having been able to see really the transition throughout the season, working on the farm and seeing what's really available. And I know it really varies from season to season, but
sure,
with the weather and everything, but to have like a ballpark of what ingredients I could be able to create something with during certain times of years. Yeah.
And how does so when you created those recipes, there's a couple of questions that are coming out of this. So I'm around the table. How do your customers, your guests at your farm to table event, how do they get access to the food that's in your menu?
What do you mean by getting access to the food?
So do they actually participate? Are they just watching you do something? They actually participating in the cooking also.
Yes. So my cooking classes have always been hands-on. So it's again, the framework of it changed throughout the years, but especially in the last 2 years where I changed my approach to going mostly all seasonal with my menus. We usually went with like 2 or 3 hour classes and it was all hands-on. So the aspect I love the most about those cooking classes is that we get, and it always gives me like the warm fuzzy feelings when I think about it, but it's like we gather like a bunch of different people from all different backgrounds that maybe when they come into class, they don't know each other. But I love the class because we all together, we share ingredients, we share tasks, we get to have fun and laugh, we get to ask questions and get to know each other more. And after the end of a 2 or 3 hour class, like everyone's laughing together, everyone's making a friend. It's like the whole point of why I do what I do, because it's so heartwarming to see people connect like that over food. So it's
I love it
for that reason.
So you would bring the ingredients to the cooking class. Exactly. They don't have to go. Okay, got it.
Exactly.
So, and how do you market your classes? Because I know that's it's one of the biggest part of business is getting people to buy the freaking tickets.
Yeah.
Getting people, let alone attend after they buy the tickets.
Yeah.
So how do you market your business? How do you market your dinners for people? And before I do that, where do you typically execute? Where do you typically run your dinners in the Moncton area?
Yeah, so my cooking classes I've been doing in both Moncton and Cap-Pele for the
Yes.
past 4 years. And the dinners, what's really interesting with them is because I'm traveling to different locations. So because I
Yes.
started only last year having my first dinner in September of 2020, my first dinner was actually in Cocagne in New Brunswick. So it was
Yeah.
apple orchard, and we did that like it was really nice. We had tables set up like by the ocean. It was really cute.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
So,
yeah,
you're not going to the local Rotary Club. You really try to create a farm atmosphere
exactly.
around that.
Yes,
Hmm.
because that's what's really interesting because like once I started daydreaming about this whole farm to table thing, like
It was a beautiful project, right? This is the
exactly.
daydream.
Yeah, because it was simmering in the back of my mind. I even had like a vision board with it, and I had like photos of like, this is
Nice.
what I'm picturing and like and everything. But I always felt terrified by the idea of not knowing how I was going to execute it. So I guess that took a little bit of more time. But
Sure.
after a while, I was like, no, like I know for sure this is what I want to do. I'm so passionate about this. And I
You
was
are.
like, even though if I'm just gonna figure it out like on the go, even if I don't have everything figured out right away, I'm not gonna stop that from letting me and trying it out. So
Love
obviously
it.
it's been quite the journey because I'm still learning obviously every single day as I'm
I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years, Chanelle. That's I'm still learning too. So that's life, my friend, as an
that is
entrepreneur.
true. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, no, so it's been really interesting, but there's
Cool.
like I honestly can't say that I've ever felt the feel like I've never what's the word I'm looking for? I was never able to like really experience that feeling with anything else. Like when I hosted my first farm to table dinner in Kakang last year, that
Yeah.
feeling of like seeing people gathered together and like really because the whole point and the whole I guess process with those events is that people come in. It's usually a 3-hour event. They get to eat a little bit of food, have a drink when they come in, and then they have a farm tour. So the farm
Ah, okay.
the
Got
whole
it.
goal because I want to bring the dinners to the farm itself so that the
Yeah,
people
okay.
are able to really see.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah, so that's the whole farm to table
Yeah,
concept.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's part of the knowledge, right? Of going in that
ex-
direction.
exactly. Yeah, so that the farm owners are really able to talk about the history of the farm, why they do what they do, and really connect with those people on a deeper level. And then people, because obviously, when we bring those dinners to the farm, we're using as much as we can the ingredients and the produce from that farm
Right.
to create our dinner so that the people can make that connection between okay we went and we saw the apple orchard. Okay, well those apples, they were harvested just right there, and then we had like an apple crisp or an apple pie for
Right.
dessert. So to make really that connection, and then
Love
after,
it.
yeah, people just gathering together. Obviously it's been different with COVID,
Yeah.
but
What have you done to deal with COVID? What's
yeah,
how you been able to be flexible in that regard? You talk about learning, my friend.
yeah,
Yeah. Tell
yeah.
us about your journey for COVID.
Yeah, no, that's been interesting because the whole vision that I had was that I was picturing like one long table with everyone sharing food together, sitting down and
Wow.
no division. But of course, with COVID, COVID, it's all about social distancing and all that. So when we hosted our first dinner, it was right before the mask started being mandated. So that was a little bit better, but we still had to do the social distancing. So we had bubble tables for like certain groups so that people could still
Man, so smart.
yeah, so that was quite interesting, but especially now, like just even with the COVID passport that's coming into play in New Brunswick here, um,
Yeah.
and I have 2 dinners coming up next month. Like that's another thing that we need to adapt with.
So I want to get back to the marketing here for a sec, because it is a challenge in any business. So how do you've got 2 dinners coming up next month. You've designed them.
Yeah.
What's on the menu for one of them as an example?
So for let's see. So on our next dinner that's coming up, it's actually really interesting. This one, the dinner we're doing in the greenhouse that's near Hillsborough in New Brunswick. And we're using mostly all ingredients from the farm. So we have grilled chicken.
So brilliant. Now I'm loving this all. I'm loving it. You were so singing my song. I love this. Yeah. Yeah. This is wonderful. So keep going. So you're using ingredients from the farm as part of the, is it a dinner? Is it a dinner?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it's a dinner. Okay. It's going to take place in the greenhouse with the same kind of concept of having people come in, take a bite, have the farm tour with the farm owners, then go back, sit down, and have the meal. So this is where we're going to have, we have grilled chicken on the barbecue with some chimichurri sauce. We have some roasted root vegetables. We're going to have a beer cheddar and apple soup. And some other things like that. So it's
cool.
It's really interesting and really, really fun. And
so talk about marketing that. How did you market that dinner in Hillsborough to the people who are now going to attend?
Yeah. So I'm still learning a lot.
Of course.
When it comes to marketing, but I did find that because usually what I do whenever I have those events coming up, I have social media pages. I have an Instagram and Facebook. And Facebook, what's really nice is that you can create those Facebook events that seems to be shared a little bit easier.
Yes.
So I have a lot of traction over on Facebook for those types of events. I'll advertise on there. Instagram as well. I try to do quite a lot of posts to kind of give behind the scenes to people of kind of what it looks like to attend their events.
Yes.
Email list as well. But as for the rest, we're still working on the website. We still have some, other things that we try to,
but you're getting people who are buying tickets to go to your private. Yeah, that's fantastic. So with any business, part of the challenge is getting validation that there's value, not just that people say that's good, but they're willing to give you money for it.
Yeah.
And so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Can you talk a bit about, what are some lessons that you learned? Give us 2 lessons that you've learned along the way in building farm to table as an entrepreneur. Not necessarily talking about the operations, the execution, but that bigger picture stuff that you said, I wish I hadn't known this before I got started, or whatever, something like that. Because our audience, they're seasoned entrepreneurs, but they're also new entrepreneurs like yourself. And I consider a startup entrepreneur somebody who's been in business for 5 years or less. As they're learning, you're in a laboratory, right? You're just trying to figure this thing out. So can you talk about maybe a couple of lessons that you've learned along the way with your business?
Yeah. So one thing I would definitely say, and it happened recently because I had an event just a few weeks ago and it turned out good, but I did get, some feedback afterwards. And I feel like something that I'm learning is to not whenever I'm getting feedback, take what I can, but like not take it like at heart.
Personally?
Yeah, because I was obviously like I felt like, this is like my baby, like I
of course
something else, to work on this, and then getting feedback. It was like emotional, but I was like,
yeah, of course it's your baby.
Yeah. So I was like, no, so I'm taking this feedback and, it's constructive. I can take, some great information out of it and be able to apply that to my business to improve.
Right.
Versus just seeing it as like, people being nasty type of thing.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah.
And
So,
I think that that's a very positive thing. You know, I get advice all the time, and I think the key is you could just take it as information. You know your business better than anybody, and people I always find are great experts in the business of doing business. But they really don't. But it's important you listen to your customer because you want to get more customers. And so if you're able to get better because of that customer feedback, then that's fantastic. So that's a great first lesson for entrepreneurs. It gets easier, by the way, as you go on.
Yeah.
You just listen to thank you. But there are some good ideas. And so what's another lesson that you learned along your journey?
I would say, I had something in mind. A second lesson, and one that I think I just always keep in the back of my mind, but it's always, and I know it's so cliche because everyone say it, but it's always like starting before you're ready, because I never felt, and still to this day, I never feel like I'm actually ready to do what I do, but I still do it anyway.
You feel like a bit of an imposter?
Yeah, pretty much. No, but really, because I mean, like, especially when it comes, because and I know it might change throughout the years because I still have like the bigger picture of what I see for my business. But initially, what my main goal was when I started the Farm to Table NB was not so much about doing dinners, but I wanted to do cooking classes on farms so that we could go gather the ingredients literally from the garden, bring it back to the kitchen and then cook. But it's been obviously much more of a challenge because farms aren't equipped most of the time with those type of setup because they're not really there to do the catering and all that. They're there to do the farming. Right. So that's been like interesting. So when I started, because again, I really wanted to do the whole farm to table and do stuff on farms, I was like, okay, well, dinners I can probably whip up. Maybe at some other time I'll be able to do the cooking classes if I have the proper setup. But when it came to like catering for groups of like 25, 50 people, like I never did that. Like we did cooking classes for like up to 10 people, but catering for large groups, like that was never something that I did. So obviously it was quite scary, but I was like, again, I'm not going to stop myself from doing it.
Good for you.
Figure it out along the way. And, obviously there's
challenges,
but it's been really fun to learn. And it just makes me really excited for the next years to come. I guess with that mindset and that attitude, like what I'll be able to achieve in my business. So
love it. Yeah, that is so cool. You are, my friend, an entrepreneur, hands down. High five to you. You really are, because just those two lessons right there, those are big mindset lessons. And so many people, I think, are going to get some great value off of that. How have the farmers been to embrace your ideas? How have the farmers that you've been connecting with, they've been? I've got to think that they've got to be pretty happy with the whole concept, with what you're doing.
Yeah, well, actually, it's really a win-win, because when I started talking with farmers about the whole concept of doing like, farm to table dinners, a lot of them were actually, the feedback that they gave me was like, we actually really wanted to do that for ourselves, but it's the limited amount of time that they have in a day.
Right. They got a farm.
You got a farm. And again, it's like, they work, especially during like, the whole season, like they work such long hours. And at the end of the day, most of them just don't have the energy to go plan and execute and advertise and do all that stuff to bring people to their farm and like then go and host a dinner. So when I contacted them and said like, I would like to collaborate, maybe we could do this together. And most of them are really excited because it's a lot of them have that vision for the future as well, of making that connection with, with people and where the food comes from. So yes,
I love it.
Yeah.
You're amazing. You really are amazing, Chanelle. You should be very proud of your journey. You should be proud of the people you're impacting. You should be proud of being from Atlantic, Canada. Talk to us about that, about being an Atlantic Canadian entrepreneur. Have you got any thoughts around the region that we live in and are fortunate to build businesses in? What's your thoughts on the entrepreneurial community?
You mean in Atlantic Canada?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really really great. Like people are super supportive. And especially I find like people, and not just like the other entrepreneurs, but just the people from the community, and even like smaller community, like coming from like Cap-Pele in rural areas.
Cap-Pele, oui. Yeah, absolutely.
Like people are so supportive, and I I had recently.
Is that your dog?
No, the neighbor's dog. Yeah, no, and it's been really
yeah, that's awesome.
Really interesting.
That's awesome that they're supportive. And so it's more than just the entrepreneurs; it's the community itself. And I know that it's a consistent message.
Yeah.
And I think that's really special.
Yeah.
How do people find out about Farm to Table MB? What's the best way that they can go to your Instagram? Have you got some information on that? I mean, we're going to put it in the feed anyway, but I want you to say, you want to find out, go here.
Yeah. So definitely the best way to find out about our work currently would be through social media mainly. So on Facebook, it's Farm to Table ND. And it's the same thing over on Instagram. We're really active on both platforms.
Yes.
Instagram being my vice of choice, but there's a lot of people that follow along on Facebook, but it's Farm to Table ND as well on Instagram.
Oh, fantastic.
And, that would be the best week currently as we work on the rest of this stuff. But
you keep your journey going. You mentioned we a few times. Talk about your team. You have people that work with you?
I don't know. I think it's force of habit. I don't know if I want people to think that I have a team behind me.
Of course you do. Yeah. I love this.
But it's me.
Okay. No, that's so cool. I am so happy you said that, because I tell people when I'm coaching them to do the exact same thing. Talk about we, because when you think about it, it is a team. It's the farmers. It's you. It's the people who, it's the people who gas up your car, your truck to get out there.
Exactly.
All of these people come together and to make your magic happen. And so I love that you do that. I know when I started in my business many years ago, my first one, it was a we also. And for that purpose, and it gives great credibility. You're great at what you do, but it just gives that other side. So I love that because it's natural with you. So Chanelle, you've been awesome to talk to. We're proud of you as an Atlantic Canadian entrepreneur, as an entrepreneur. And the one thing you talked about, I'm going to close with that, was the passion around bringing people together around this whole experience. And that, my friend, even though I haven't had the luxury of been to a Farm to Table NB event yet, I'm sure that just keeps showing and showing and showing with the culture that you created. And that's what keeps you going day after day, is because you've got this deep passion. So congratulations on that. You are amazing. Keep doing your great stuff. And we'll look forward to sending this out. Not only, by the way, we're going to send this across Atlantic Canada, we're going to send it across Canada too. So really appreciate you being on the Canada's podcast today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Chanelle Belliveau. She is the CEO and founder of Farm to Table NB. I'm Rivers Corbett, Atlantic Canadian host for Canada's podcast, the #1 podcast for entrepreneurs. See you, everybody.